Hi guys, it's Daniel Stephen here, the Executive Health Coach, and today I want to talk to you about weight and how to lose it. So, I've always been fit and healthy, minus a few injuries, but there was a period of my life where I massively gained weight. It was when I left university, I graduated and I started my career, very brief career, in finance and a sales role. My job involved a lot of client entertainment. I was always taking clients out for lunch, for dinner, for drinks in the evenings. But on top of that, there was a lot of drinking socially with the company. And then on top of that, because I was so depressed and anxious and unhappy at that period of my life, I also used alcohol as a crutch to quieten voices that were telling me how unhappy I was, to help me sleep because I had insomnia. So essentially, I was massively over drinking, but I was also massively overeating. I sought a lot of comfort in food, which is relatively common. And so for me, my 32-inch waist, which is where I'm normally at when I'm healthy, ballooned to over 40. And my weight, which is normally between 80 to 90 kg when I'm healthy, ballooned to over 110. Thankfully, there's no photos of that period of my life, not intentionally, I just don't have any, but I looked very different. So I gained a lot of weight, I gained a lot of size, but I lost all of that through learning how to find a moderate approach to food and drink. Not crazy cutting out the foods, not crazy reduction diets, fad diets. I just learned to moderate everything. And that's been a sustainable approach that's worked for me and for all of my clients. It's the same approach I take with my clients. So how do I do that? A few different things. Firstly, I'll cover off the importance of the three macros, fats, carbs and proteins, but there's also the importance of water intake. There's the importance of adequate fibre intake. There's the importance of controlling our calories, and one of the ways I find the best way of doing that is intermittent fasting. And lastly, it's also alcohol. So first off, our macros. A lot of fad diets out there, and I refer to any diet that isn't sustainable permanently or in the long run as being a fad diet. We'll talk about heavy restriction of a certain food type, normally carbohydrates. So the issue is when you do that, yes, you might lose weight because you're cutting a lot of food out of your diet, but the minute you reintroduce that food, once you've reached your ideal weight or ideal size, your weight will come back on. Loads of studies have shown that when people do diets that aren't sustainable, when they finish and they resume normal eating and drinking and their old habits, they will gain the weight back on, and 70% will actually gain more weight than they even started with. So learning how to lose weight sustainably is super important for your long-term health and weight as well. So carbohydrates, you don't need to cut them out, but you do need to learn to control them because they are a high energy source of food. Think of it as fuel. If you have a sedentary job, if you sit down a lot, you drive to work, you sit on the bus, the train, the tube, and then you sit at the office all day at your desk or in meetings, you don't need to be consuming loads of calories as though you were a professional athlete. So you don't have to cut them out, but you do need to learn to reduce them. So learning how to control the carbs is really, really important. The other thing is how to increase our protein intake. So our very cells that we are created from are based upon protein. They are made from protein. So when we don't eat enough protein, this affects us on a cellular level as well as our muscular skeletal system. So how our muscles form, everything else, our nerve cells, our brain, just think everything is affected by protein. So most people that I've ever worked with drastically don't get enough protein in their diet. Massively don't. So it's really important that we increase the amount of protein that we consume. Doesn't matter whether it's from a plant source or an animal source. I've worked with vegans, vegetarians, pescatarians, full-blown carnivores. It doesn't matter. You just need to make sure you're getting enough from whatever source that you want to eat it from. So reducing carbs, but increasing proteins. Regarding fats, just make sure that you're eating them. Try and get them from whole food sources rather than processed food sources. As long as you remember that key factor, you won't go far wrong. The next thing, like I said, is adequate water intake. So 2 to 3 litres is what I would normally suggest for the average person. And I would suggest trying to consume it from sun up to sundown. So try and get it from the minute you wake up until when you go to bed, rather than waiting for it to be the evening and then going panicking and I haven't drunk my 3 litres, drinking it all, and then you'll be guaranteed you'll be waking up at 2 or 3 in the morning to go to the toilet. So try and ensure that you consume water from when you wake up throughout the day. Very, very important. Our bodies are made up of water, so ensure you're getting enough. The third aspect I mentioned was fibre, adequate fibre intake. So you can get soluble and insoluble fibre from whole foods. It's very, very abundant in vegetables, but also in starch carbohydrates. However, most people still aren't getting enough. So one thing you can do is supplement with a fibre supplement. Now, the only ones you should be taking are the ones that have one ingredient, essentially, and that is the fibre itself. And that normally is sourced from seed husks or seed shells. So you want to be taking it in pill form or fibre powder form that you add to a water and drink, whichever one is your preference. And that will really help both your bowel movement, avoiding becoming constipated with hopefully an increase in protein, which is often something that happens, but also it just helps the body function optimally and helps bind to dietary fats and remove them from your system. So increasing fibre is really, really crucial. The fourth thing I mentioned, which is a bit of a trick and tip, it's become very popular recently, is intermittent fasting. Now there's loads of different types, but I've found for myself and for my clients, and for most of you listening that have busy lives, stressful lives, and normally office-based, that the 16-8 rule is the most easily adherable to and therefore the most effective. So 16-8 means that you don't eat for 16 hours, you don't consume any form of calories from food or drink in 16 hours, but then you eat normally and drink normally within a window of 8. So if you have dinner at 8 o'clock in the evening and you're finished eating at 8, you would then resume eating and drinking calories at 12 the next day. You can still have water, you can still have black coffee, herbal coffees, teas, things like that, but you can't add any calories in the form of sweeteners, sugar, milk and so forth. That is a very, very useful tip. Not only are we reducing the window of time of which you can eat within, which will help you normally reduce your calorie intake anyway, but you're also helping the body burn more fat in the window where you're not eating. So that's just how it affects your weight, but it has profound benefits on your health too, both mental and physical. And it's also, like I said, the most easily adherable to. If you try the 5-2, that's great. Any form of fasting will work, but 5-2 is a bit more extreme. So the 16-8 is a bit easier. Well, I find it a lot easier to adhere to, as do my clients. And then the last thing is alcohol. Now, I'm not telling you need to cut alcohol out to lose weight, like a lot of people in the health industry will. I am saying moderation again is the key here. So for me, I still have alcohol. It's not something that's removed from my diet. I personally have it quite rarely, but I've had lots of success with clients who still consume alcohol every week. But what they've done is they've gone from drinking it every day to maybe once or twice or 3 times of the week, and also learning to reduce the amount they drink when they drink. So alcohol, when we drink it, basically it is a toxin to the body, and the liver, which is the body's processing plant, will want to go through it and get it out of the system as quickly as possible. But in order to do that, it slows down or shuts down some other functions that the liver is supposed to perform, one of which is fat burning. So when you drink alcohol every day, you're massively impeding your liver's ability to burn your fat stores. Even if you're in a calorie deficit, you're just making it a lot harder for the body to process fat. So, like I said, you don't have to cut it out. If you do, it will be even easier. But if you still like your drink, if it's part of your job, a lot of the executives I work with have to entertain clients. And for them, they just don't feel comfortable not drinking with a client. So if that's the case, just be very scheduled with your time when you drink and ensure you're drinking when you have to drink, not for any other reason. And only drink in those windows and reduce the amount of drinking. So we've got the importance of eating all 3 macros, proteins, fats and carbs, but in moderation, learning how much you need to eat for your lifestyle, your level of activity. If you're sedentary, reduce the carbs. If you're active, you can have a bit more. Everyone needs to be eating more protein. Then we've got the importance of adequate water intake, adequate fibre intake. Then we've got intermittent fasting, which is a great tool to try out. And then we've got the big one of alcohol, learning to control that or cut it out depending on what your lifestyle is like and what you want to do. So I hope you found this video helpful. If it's struck a chord with you and you want to know more, you want to learn more, or you're thinking, I've tried all of this and none of it's working, then it might be down to adherence and the way you're approaching it. Either way, if you'd like to talk to me, if you'd like to find out more about how I work, feel free to drop a comment below. I'm going to leave my email below as well, or connect with me on LinkedIn if we're not already connected. And if you are connected with me, send me a direct message if you like, and I'd be more than happy to talk to you. Hope you found this video helpful. I'm Daniel Stephen, the Executive Health Coach. Have a great day.